MCC Season 2 featured a lot of players, so naturally with all the new and returning faces, some players got talked about less than others. So in this video, I'm going to be ranking every MCC player in a tier list based on how underrated I think they are. As always, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and enjoy. Alright, so starting out, of course, we have to go through the tiers. At the top here, we have underrated. Below that, we have slightly underrated. In the middle, we have properly rated. Below that, we have slightly overrated. And at the bottom, of course, we have overrated. So starting out, we got AMZ. AMZ, I think, is properly rated right now. She's a good role player to have on a team, and she's very energetic, so she helps out a lot, especially in games like Santa Time, where she's very energetic with her sand calls outs, her call outs, and just her all around team energy that she brings to any team really is just amazing. So I love AMC, and yeah, she's properly rated right now. Next up, we have Captain Puffy. Captain Puffy, I think, is slightly overrated just because she hasn't been playing up to her highest of standards, I would say, that she holds herself to. So yeah, recently she hasn't been playing good. She's been getting bottom 30, bottom 20. So yeah, maybe she's able to turn it around, but right now she is slightly over. Next up, we have Fruit Berries. Of course, Fruit is an S tier, so he is properly rated. Most of the S tiers in this tier list, I'm going to put as properly rated just because, they're S tiers, of course, so they'd most likely be, pretty rated properly. Next up, we have Good Times with Scar. Good Times with Scar is still slightly underrated. He's not underrated, but he is slightly underrated. I think he's really close to getting to properly rated. I think give him 2 events into Season 3, and I think people will properly rate him, all right? So right now, I'm going to put him in slightly underrated. Next up, we have George Not Found. George is pretty properly rated. He hasn't played since Dream has in MCC 24 when they last won. But George was dominant when he played. Even without Dream, sometimes he was pretty good. So yeah, George is... he's he would be an S tier by now if he would practice and actually try his hardest. Even when he's on the team with Dream, he probably would do amazing. He already does amazing with Dream, but if he actually tried his hard, possibly his hardest and actually strategize kind of 5-up and actually, practice kind of puns or Lumina, then maybe he'd be an S tier by now. That's just my take on it, but of course George is an A+ tier, so he's borderline S tier. So yeah, George is properly rated. Next up, we have Ant Frost. Ant Frost is slightly underrated just because Ant is continuously getting better and better as each event goes on, whether that's in leadership, that's in skill, that's in actual individual placement. He's just getting continually better and better. So once he becomes an S tier, I think then I'll be able to put him in properly rated. The thing about George is he didn't continually get better. He kind of did, I guess, in some aspects. His individual placements kind of got better and better, or they got consistently better. He'd be consistently top 8, top 10 or whatever, but George wouldn't try to improve his skill as much as Ant Frost is right now. So Ant Frost is slightly underrated, but will go into properly rated once he becomes an S tier, which will probably be soon, probably be within the first 5 events of MCC Season 3 if I was to guess. So yeah, love Ant. Next up, we have Grian. Grian would be in slightly overrated, but I'm going to put him in properly rated just because it's he would be in slightly overrated if we didn't know that he actually doesn't try. He hasn't been trying since, I don't actually know when he stopped trying really, but ever since he's gotten his first win, I feel he's just slightly not been trying as much because he got his win and he's just playing for fun basically now. So if he wasn't, if he was trying and he got bottom 20, bottom 30, then he would be an overrated or slightly overrated. But because I know he's not trying, then he's improperly rated. Hopefully that makes sense, but I love you, Grian. Next up, we have Hannah XX Rose. I don't know. I think Hannah goes in slightly overrated just right now. I'm not, guys, please don't hate me. But when I say she's slightly overrated, I'm not saying she's overrated as heck, she's super overrated or something like that. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying she's slightly overrated because she just, people are expecting her to somehow people are expecting her, how do I put this? To break the top 10 and actually get there and have a great event to lead her team to dodgeball. But she hasn't been able to develop into that yet. She hasn't made the Ant Frost leap like Handfrost has in the past couple of events. So it's like hard to put her in properly rated or in slightly underrated. So I'm gonna put her in slightly overrated just for now. Just for now, guys. Please don't hate me about this, okay? It's just my opinion. And if you want to put her in slightly underrated or an underrated or an overrated, if you're that kind of person, or if you want to put her in properly rated, I'm totally fine with that. But right now, I'd put her in slightly overrated just because people expect her to get top 10 or they want her to get top 10 and she's really only being able to get in between like top 12 or top 20 range. So just slightly overrated, just a little bit. Next up, we have H-Bomb. H, of course, I'm going to put in properly rated. I think he's an S tier. He has the record for most dodgeball appearances in 10. That means he's played almost 1/3 of the entire dodgeball MCC history. I think there's been 32, counting the non-canon ones, and he's played in 10, so that's about 1/3, basically 1/3. And that's insane. And yeah, he does really well even if he's on a bad team, and he does really well even if he's on a good team, like he did in 24 when he got first. So yeah, love you, H, and you're properly rated for me. Next up, we have Foolish. Foolish, I would also put in slightly overrated, probably. I think I would, just because people also have expected him to get top 10. I think he's only gotten top 10 in Pride. Yeah, he's only gotten top 10 in Pride 22, so I don't know. I don't think I can put him in slightly under. I don't know. It's either slightly underrated or slightly overrated, and just because I put Hannah in slightly overrated and Foolish is kind of the same, I don't know. I actually might put him in slightly underrated because, like, I think people had more expectations with Hannah, while they had less expectations. Sorry, with Foolish. So it's like it's close, but I am actually might put Foolish in slightly underrated because I don't know if people actually see how good he's been like getting. He's been consistently getting top 20, top 15, kind of like Hannah, except for people actually thought Hannah was going to get top 10 when she came into the event, kind of like Purpled, and it took Purple an event or two to actually get there. But yeah, Foolish so far. People thought he was going to be like top 25, top 20. He's been doing really well. He gets 15th, he gets 18th, he gets 17th, he gets 16th. He gets in that range right there, like in the late teens. So yeah, I put Foolish in slightly underrated. This might be a controversial take, guys. I'm sorry. I might be really consistent with this, but I don't know. Let me know what you think about Foolish and Hannah and how underrated or overrated they are in the comments down below, because I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Next up, we have Illumina. Of course, Illumina is going to be probably rated because she's, like, in my opinion, the second greatest Season 2 player behind Sapnap. And yeah, Illumina is insane. In the Littlewood, our first fully underrated person. Now, I'm gonna be honest, Martin's probably not gonna be like underrated for long because everyone's gonna start talking about him and how good he is. So yeah, probably I would say like within the first couple MCC season 3 events, if he's in like the first like 3 or so, then he probably will start getting talked about and people will actually start saying how, like, you know, underrated he is, and then he'll become non underrated, kind of like Sylvie, kind of like SB, kind of like a lot of other players that I can't really think of right now. So yeah, right now he is underrated, but once everyone starts talking about him and showing how, like, you know, properly rated he is or how underrated he is, everyone's gonna stop calling him underrated. So right now he is underrated. Next we have Jack Manifold. Jack is like, I don't know. He is overrated in my book just because people think he can like get top 25 on like a team and kind of lead them somewhere. Kind of like MCC 27. People thought he was gonna people thought he was gonna get top 25. He did not. I think he got bottom 5 actually, bottom 35. So yeah, didn't help. Jack is not a good. He's not a great leader. I'll give you that. He's a good third player, and sometimes he's a great fourth player, depending on your other players. But most of the time, he's a great fourth player or a good third player, and he kind of proved that this past MCC, helping his team to get to dodgeball. But this is the big but, guys. Jack is like a horrible dodgeball player. He's horrendously bad at dodgeball. I don't know how to put it. He is 0-12, guys, in every single round. He has never won a round of dodgeball. 0-12. How do you get 0-12, bro? He's made it to 4 dodgeballs and lost. He's gotten swept 4 times in 3 rounds of dodgeball. That is insane, bro. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to comprehend that. Jack is overrated for me just because he is bad at dodgeball. All right, he is funny. He is awesome. He's very funny. All right, him and Tommy are hilarious together. But it doesn't help that he literally cannot play dodgeball for the life of him. It doesn't help. He is overrated for me. Let me know what you guys think about Jack and his dodgeball experience down below in the comments, because it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be funny. Jack's record for most dodgeball rounds lost, I think that's a record. Yeah, that's pretty insane. We have Flip, just because he hasn't played in a while, and I don't know how good he would do if he came back in Season 3, because it would have been a huge gap, because last time he played was 21, and he got third with Fruit, Joel, Ren, and... Yeah, it was Fruit, Joel, Ren, and Flip in 21, and they got third. And I don't think... Flip hasn't won yet, I don't think, so... Yeah, it's going to be a huge gap if he returns in, like, the first couple events of Season 3, or if he returns in the later half of Season 3. So it would be a huge gap, and I don't know if he would be able to, like, usually he's able to get top 25. I don't know if he'd be able to do that. He'd probably get bottom 25, or not bottom 20. He'd probably get bottom 20 or bottom 30. So, yeah, I'm going to say he's slightly overrated, but he was good in 21, so he might still be able to maintain that skill. Next up, we have Bitzel. Bitzel, I think, is, of course, slightly overrated at this point because he hasn't played in a while. Last time he played was All-Stars, and he wasn't that good. Next up, we have 5-Up. 5-Up is still slightly underrated. I think give him, like, 3 more events that he's in, and he'll probably be properly rated. But right now, I'd put 5-Up in slightly underrated. Next up, we have Finn. Finn, I'm putting in slightly overrated just because Finn's good, but, like, if Finn is not on a team... If Finn's on a team where Finn is the second player, like kind of like in 26, I think, Finn was the third player, but Finn did not do that great. So, yeah, I don't know. That team did not do great. It was Tommy. I mean, it didn't help that Tommy was the leader and he's not an S tier. So it was Tommy, Cap, Finn, and not Jack. Who was it? It wasn't Jack. Was it? Somebody else. Anyways, that team did not do great at all. I think it was Jack. But, yeah, Finn did not help that team out. So I think unless Finn's on a team with, like, an S tier, a secondary good player, kind of like in 23 when they won, it was Quig, Finn, Errit, and Martin. And then in 16 when he won with Dream, Dream, CBK, Bad, and him. That was a cracked team, actually. That was insane. So I think I'll put Finn in slightly underrated. Maybe Finn is slightly... Oh, no, actually, I'll put Finn slightly overrated, but maybe Finn is slightly underrated. I don't know. So we have Connor Eats Pants. Connor is overrated. No, I'm just putting him in there for the memes. To be honest, Connor is probably rated, and he doesn't play Minecraft, like, at all. So it's funny, though. I'm just going to leave him in overrated with Jack. Next up, we have Kratzy. Now, I've been saying this for a while, guys, and please try to understand this. Kratzy's skill is, like, S tier level. Like, his skill is up there with the S tiers, but here's like the hard part that I try to understand, and it's hard to, like, criticize him about, but, like, his leadership is not there. Like, he's not that good at leading a team. Like, and a good example would be MCC 26 Science and Beats. Yeah, it was Kratzy, Krinios, Ryguy, and Kara, right? 3 out of 4 of the Crimson Krakens, plus Ryguy, right? You had Kratzy and Krinios, who are both A+ tiers, right? Or Krinios is kind of like A tier, maybe A+ tier at this point. I feel like he's A tier, so it's A+ tier, A tier, and then probably B+ tier in Ryguy, and then Kara's like a C tier, right? If we're doing it by tiers, right? That's a very good team. Like, that's a very well-rounded team, right? They got third. They did pretty well, but it's like Kratzy was not able to lead them as strongly as an S tier was, all right? If you take Kratzy out and put Antfrost in, I feel like Antfrost would be able to lead them to a dodgebolt, or maybe even get them a higher coin average. I feel like Antfrost is like, he has that leadership and he has that skill. He's just like 2 or 3 events away from being an S tier. Dave needs to have leadership in order to be an S tier, and he doesn't. And that's why when he gets a team like that, he doesn't do that good. And Scott needs to stop treating him like an S tier when he's making the teams. So yeah, I'm gonna put Dave in slightly overrated. Maybe you say he's overrated and you put him down there with Jack and Connor, or maybe you put him in underrated with Martin. Maybe you put him in slightly underrated, or maybe you say he's probably rated. But right now, I would put him in slightly overrated just because of what my case was, what I just said. let me know if you agree about that in the comments down below, because that is a kind of a hot take, I guess. Maybe it's not at this point, but I don't know. Let me know your thoughts about Dave Kratzy down below in the comments, because he's interesting. Got LD Shadow Lady. I think she's slightly overrated just because people thought she was going to do better than she did in Underdogs, and she didn't. And that's probably because she hasn't played MCC in a while, and she's used to like doing like, modded Minecraft or like a Minecraft survival world. So it's like she's not like, all the time practicing like Illumina would or Benex would in like a speed run. So you know what I mean? Like, so it's like they're not like, she's not always practicing her Minecraft skills. So that's why it wasn't that surprising to me when she came back to MCC that she didn't do that good. So that's why I feel like if Lizzie wants to do good in MCC, she would have to like, play like 3 events in a row and get the hang of it, because it's changed drastically and got way more competitive than it did in season 1 when she last played before Underdogs. Or no, she played in 14. So but 14 was kind of like, that was scuffed. 14 was a scuffed event, to be honest. So, like, yeah, it's changed a lot. So maybe she's able to come back in season 3 and do well. And maybe I'm wrong about her, but right now I put Lizzie in slightly overrated. Halo. Bad, I think, deserves to be still called underrated. I mean, he's like every single event he plays in, I feel like he's a top 10 underrated player in that event. Like if you had to rank 10 underrated players in an event, I feel like Bad would be in most of people's top 10s. I mean, he's pretty underrated. He's able to get top 20 on a good team, and he's able to get top 25 on a bad team. So it's like, yeah, take your pick. Bad is he's underrated. Next up, we have Pearl. Pearl is going to go in still underrated just because she hasn't gotten her win yet. And she deserves to, okay? Pearl is insanely good, and she just needs that right team. She hasn't found the perfect team yet to unlock her MCC greatness, I feel like. I feel like it would be like with Peter Quig. I don't know, just because I feel like she would vibe with Peter Quig the most. Maybe Illumina, but I feel like most likely it'd be like Peter Quig. I feel like Quig would give her the better chance just because Pete hasn't played, as he is used to playing in season 1 or the first half of season 2, just because he doesn't really try and he just plays for fun. So I feel like if you pair Pearl up with Quig or Illumina or somebody or like JoJo maybe, and then like put her with like JoJo, Hannah, Pearl, and someone else, maybe that could get her win. I don't know. That'd probably be a little bit too OP, but I feel like it could work. So yeah, I'm gonna put her Pearl on underrated still, because I think she is. She just needs that right team to unlock her greatness. Is just because of his curse, I'm gonna say Rambu's overrated. This is a joke, guys. All right, I'm not being serious, but just because of his curse and his ability to get 3rd place, literally like every other event he plays in, he is going in overrated. No, I'm kidding. But if I was being serious, I'd probably put him in like slightly underrated. But right now, because he's still, if he like when he gets his curse, like when he wins for once and actually stops his curse, then yeah, I'll put him in probably rated. But right now, like Sparkles. But right now, I'm gonna put him in overrated just because his curse literally guarantees you 3rd place or below. So yeah. Next of Antvenom. Antvenom goes in underrated just because he's really good at a lot of games that people don't recognize. He's good at Ace Race. He's really good at Hole in the Wall. He loves Hole in the Wall. And he's just all around a really good movement player. And he's a really good player to have on a team where he's your 3rd player. If he's your 3rd player, it's going to be a pretty good team because he's a really good 3rd player to have. And I think with his improvements throughout Season 3, I think he's going to have a really good shot at winning an event and actually doing really well. So yeah, I'm going to put him in underrated right now, but probably at the beginning of season 3, people will actually start talking about him and calling him not underrated and probably properly rating him. So yeah, right now he's underrated. Next up, we have Rye Guy. Rye Guy is still underrated somehow. He is insanely good at dodge bolts, but he just never has the teams that can get him there, bro. It's so annoying. I want to see Rye Guy in dodge bolt again. He hasn't been in dodge bolt since MCC 19, bro, but he's insanely cracked at dodge bolt. So whenever he's able to get to dodge bolts next, which will probably be some time in season 3 because he does play pretty inconsistently, but whenever he is in MCC next, I will be really hoping that he gets the dodge bolt because Rye Guy is really good at dodge bolts and people don't really recognize, or some people do, but some people don't. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in underrated, and I think that's really fair. Next up, we have Sapnap. Of course, Sapnap's going in properly rated. He's Sapnap, for crying out loud. Next up, we have SB. SB can go in. Where's this? SB can go in slightly underrated. He's still slightly underrated. He's kind of like George. He's almost at the point where George is at, where he's like basically considered an A+ tier and like probably won't get an S tier. But I think SB could get to S tier. I think he might be able to someday. He just has to play slightly more consistently in MCC. So hopefully throughout season 3 he's able to play pretty consistently, because he hasn't played in season 2 since, I don't even know, 23. Yeah, he hasn't played since 23. So hopefully he'll be able to come back and play really good and become an S tier. Then he'll be properly rated, or he'll get to a point where he's like reached his maximum limits, which is like what George has. So then I'll put him in properly rated, but right now he is still slightly underrated. She's also slightly overrated. She's kind of like same thing with Kara, where like season 1 was her season, and now season 2 she's been playing slightly less good, but she still got what, 2 wins, 1 win, right? Yeah, it was 1 win with yeah, I think it was, no, 2 win. I don't know. Anyways, I know she got at least 1 win in season 2. So yeah, cool. Next up, we have Skeppy. I think Skeppy is slightly overrated still, because I need to see more. I need to see him on like a not so good team, kind of like MCC 14, but like where he's like the 3rd best player, and it's like not an S tier. It's kind of like Amfrost or 5UP or somebody like that leading the team, or like Kratzy or somebody like that, where they're leading the team, instead of like somebody like Dream and George and Bad, where that team was basically just broken, because of course you have Dream and George, was almost an automatic dodgeball duo, like I've said before. So I want to see Skeppy on a pretty like, I want to see him on like a really well-rounded team, and then I'd probably properly rate him, because right now I feel like him winning in 24 was really just him getting carried. I'm not like, I don't know, because he did get 20th, and I said he wasn't going to get top 20. I think he got 18th or 20th. So I was wrong about that, but I don't know. Maybe I'm still sleeping on Skeppy, but I'm going to still put him in slightly overrated. We have Ollie. Ollie is still underrated, I feel like. He's really good, and like it's like funny, because he's kind of like Amesy. He brings so much like jazz to the team. Jazz is such a funny word to use, but he brings so much jazz and like energy to the team. It's so awesome. Like, and a good example would be MCC 26 with Fruits, Phil, Ollie, and Shelby. Yeah, it was Shelby. Shovel. And so that team was like really good, or that team was like underrated, and I really loved that team won, because I was so happy, because I was watching Fruits POV for the entire events, and I was like, yes, when they won. And Ollie was like a key part of that team, because he kept the morale high. Him and Phil were like awesome together. I love him and Phil. They're such a great duo. But him and Phil together was just so like funny. And then you had Fruit, which is like the carry for the team. So it's like, it was like almost a perfect team in one sense. And Ollie was a great part of that team, and people don't really understand that. Like, people gave really like Phil and Fruits for the credit for the win, but like Ollie was a key part of that team. So I think he is still underrated. Love Ollie. Next up, we have Joel. Joel at this point is definitely properly rated. I think he can't really be underrated anymore. He's basically a top 10 on a good team, and if he's not on a good team, he's a top 20. So like, what can you say? It's smallish beans. He's insane. Next up, you have Sneeg. Sneeg is still underrated. I think after this event, he might be slightly underrated, but right now I'm going to put him in still underrated, because I love him so much. Sneeg is insane. Bro got 11th place. That's crazy. Like, he really is he's like one of the best 3rd players to have on a team. You put him, you put an S tier, you put an A tier, or someone like Sparkles, who can be an A tier sometimes, but also can be a B tier. And then you put Sneeg, and then it doesn't really matter who you put at the 4th place, but Jimmy was insane when he was their role player at the 4th spot. But Sneeg at the 3rd spot is insane. So yeah, I love Sneeg, and he's definitely underrated still. Sylvie is probably rated at this point. I don't know, you might put her in slightly overrated, but I mean, she's not underrated anymore. Like a lot of people were saying in my comments section when I made a community post about who's the most underrated MCC player here, and it was like Martin, Sylvie, Sneeg, and Bad, I think, and everyone said everyone clicked Sylvie, but then everyone was starting to say Sylvie's not underrated. So yeah, Sylvie is properly rated at this point. She used to be underrated like 2 events ago, and now she's finally properly rated, which I like, because Sylvie is cracked. Technoblade is the most properly rated, cracked MCC player we will ever get to see. Thank you, Technoblade, for everything you've done. Rest in peace, 07. we have Wilbur Soot. Wilbur kind of fell off when it came to like the second half of MCC season 2, so like he didn't do that great. So like, yeah, I'm gonna have to put him in slightly overrated. Probably you might put him in overrated, but right now I'm gonna put him in slightly overrated, just because the event got more competitive. He stopped playing, or he stopped trying at least, and he started playing for fun. So a couple things factored in, and he just got worse. Not by that much, but he got kind of worse, like pretty worse. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in slightly overrated, but I still love Wilbur, and maybe if he wants to come back and try to get 5 wins in season 3, he could. But yeah, right now he is slightly overrated. Next will be a Wisp. Wisp is also slightly overrated. No, I'm kidding. Actually, Wisp is probably properly rated, to be honest. I don't know. He might be slightly overrated, but right now I feel like he's properly rated just because he could have like proven us wrong and gotten like properly rated if he was able to play in like 3 events. He was supposed to play in like 3 different events in like the second half of season 2, and he didn't because he like either dropped out, his internet connection like failed him or something like that. There's just a bunch of things, and it didn't really work out, so he wasn't able to play that many events in the second half. But the couple, or like the 2 or 3 events he did play, he did decent. So next up we have Preston. Preston is also probably slightly overrated. Sad to say, I do love Preston. I love him in MCC, and I hope he returns in season 3. But he is slightly overrated just because, one, he's kind of not great he's not as great as he used to be in Minecraft, and 2, MCC's gotten more competitive, so it probably wouldn't help him, because he's kind of old. No, I'm kidding, but he's not as good as Minecraft as he used to be. So the event being more competitive doesn't help him out. So he's slightly overrated. Sorry, I don't know why it took me so long to say that. Kind of same with Dan TDM also. No offense to Dan, loved seeing him back in MCC Underdogs, but the same kind of situation where he is slightly overrated because of the same reasons as Preston. Next up we have Fundy. Fundy is also slightly overrated. I don't know why I just put 4 people in a row that are slightly overrated, but Fundy is also slightly overrated because I feel like if he came back, he would be like top 20, top 15, but like not top 10. Like before he left, he was like almost a guaranteed top 10, and now I feel like you'd just be like you kind of be like a Hannah or a Foolish, where you get top 20, and if not top 20, you get top 15. Maybe he'd be able to prove me wrong, because maybe he'd be able to improve a lot and do better. But right now, I'd probably put him in slightly overrated. Let me know what you think about Fundy down below, and if you think he'll ever return. I don't think he will, though, sadly. That's many reasons. You can look it up on your own, but many reasons. She got like 22nd or something like that. She did really well. And last but certainly not least, we have Fire Breath Man, aka Shane. To be honest, I think Fire Breath Man is like the most overrated MCC player I have ever seen. Like, Wolfie is 100 times better than he will ever be. Fire Breath Man is so bad, bro. Oh my god. No, guys, I'm kidding. Fire Breath Man is slightly underrated. Slightly. The only reason I say slightly is because he would be underrated if he got a slightly worse placement than he did, but he like freaking dominated Underdogs, so like he's not underrated because he dominated, and he's dominated in other events like Block Wars with other MCC contestants. So like literally put him in properly. If you put him in properly rated, that's not really like, that wouldn't be a fair replacement because he played in only a half canon event, not with like majority of the main MCC contestants. So I'm going to put him in slightly underrated because he did only play in a half canon events, but if he's able to play in a canon event in season 3, then he probably will be properly rated with the rest of the S tiers, because he most likely is a future S tier along with Frost. So yeah, that's my take on it. Also, oh yeah, I forgot, we have Noxcrew. Noxcrew is the most overrated thing I've ever seen, bro. Literally. Get out of here. No, I'm kidding. Noxcrew is the most underrated MCC contestant. Noxcrew, bro. Noxcrew is the reason why this is happening, guys. If you don't put Noxcrew underrated, you were insane. So yeah, Noxcrew's underrated, and yeah, we're done. That was a lot of people. And made this far in the video, please drop a like and subscribe, because I'd really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. Anyways, thank you. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below and click on one of these videos to keep on watching my content. Anyways, peace.